what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Happy Saturday. Hopefully, this will post while it's still Saturday. I am a bit late to the table. I was having a lazy Saturday myself, just kind of chilling. And now here I am, so you're welcome. Damn, okay, I was just joking, shit. No, I hope you're having a great weekend, though, ultimately. And I would like to say that I did finally, per my last message, look into Mercury retrograde. I don't know why not everybody, but why there's been quite a bit of talk about it pretty early on, because the pre-shadow doesn't start until November 25th, so we're still a few days out from that. And then the actual retrograde doesn't start until December. Shoot, now I forgot. Is it the 12th? I think it's the 12th. Yeah, I believe it's the 12th, and then it's out until January 1st. So we're going to get that, which will be very interesting. And like, one thing that I was correct about is when I did do a little bit of research, and I didn't really scratch the surface, so I'm not going to talk a lot about it right now. But when I did kind of look into it just to get the dates and get my bearings straight, it is in fact going to be different than the other ones, like I said in my last message. Number one, because as opposed to the other two that we've had earlier this year, this retrograde is going to start in the earth sign of Capricorn, but it's going to end back in Sagittarius. So it's interesting that we're actually starting off in Sagittarius, and then by the time that it's over, we'll be ending in Capricorn. I think I did say Capricorn, right? In Capricorn. So it's almost like a flip-flop. So I think that dynamic alone is going to be interesting for me to kind of digest intuitively, which is why I'm definitely not going to dig into it now. But yes, and the other two that we experienced, this being the last one, were exclusively in earth signs, which is quite different, so there's that. But I just want to put that out there because I kind of was like feeling like it must be pre-shadow phase the way people were talking about it, but in fact it is not. We got some time to prepare and to consider how that energy may affect us in real time, and I also have some time to prepare how I want to talk about it. So for now, I will just cut the cards one more time, and let's see what we got on the bottom. 9 of Wands. I feel like, really, is that how we starting? I should have left the damn cards alone. For real, like, I'm going to shuffle these, and I'm definitely not going to take it. But 9 of Wands, I mean, it's a familiar energy. It's looking back. It's like the wounded warrior pose, looking back at what experiences have been incurred at this point in time. It's not the most favorable reflection, I would say, holistically. It can even indicate some mental or energetic imbalance within that reflection, or just within the experiences that one has had up until now, and the present position that person is in, So as with everything, even the cards themselves, it's all a matter of perspective. So you can see it with gratitude of all you've overcome and still standing, to live another day, perhaps fight another day if need be. Or you can see it with regret, or, with some type of resentment, even, whether it be for self within those being creator of those circumstances, or co-creator with that energy, or however one feels that they've been victimized or somehow, been vulnerable to the experiences of life. So it just depends, which side of the fence you literally are on. But this can also imply some type of like imprisonment, I would say more of the mind and the energy than perhaps in a physical sense. But again, it depends. And that could be for all the ways that I just said, because of your perspective and you almost being bound to a lower vibration of it, as opposed to being liberated to your own life force and celebrating that you've overcome some great trial and perhaps even tribulation to date. And what else with the Nine of Wands? It was something else that I heard for a second. Oh, it could also be PTSD, in the vein of the whole wounded warrior energy, like having still psychologically experiencing I'm hearing reverb. I don't even know why I'm saying that, of your experiences, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So like I said, I'm going to shuffle these real quick just to freshen up the energy if we can. But let's see where the message leads. Okay. Split them one more time. All right, and let's just go in. Taking that, that's quite a bit to start. Hermit card, try to peek out. Maybe trying to lead somebody into the light from having having the adverse perspective. I don't know. Okay, then we got the Queen of Swords and Judgment. So some objective decision making here. Final decision. This is like someone that's considered the possibilities. Like I'm getting like the lawyer, which is kind of what this energy could be. It could either be an official, but absolutely could be Libra with the air energy as like a lawyer. Someone, I hear mediator, or what's that other word? Litigator. I hear that as well. What is that word? Arbitrator? I don't even know what that is exactly. But we got a Queen of Swords here, who's someone ultimately that's in a position to make a decision or a ruling in some regard with the sword in her hand. Now she's one that has the responsibility to, as I said, consider all parties or all she's got to hear all sides of the case. Consider at the most basic consideration of someone in a position such as this, like that may be a lawyer or some type of let's just say lawyer, that would have to hear. But would this be like the prosecutor, or would it be like, I don't know. I feel like it might actually be, I feel like it would be more like the prosecutor, because she would have the burden of truth, i.e. proof, on her side. That would be what she'd be responsible for. So it's like I don't know, let me not get too deep. I don't know why it's dragging me into that, because I'm not even all that well versed in legalities to be talking in that regard. But for whatever reason, she's in charge of getting to the bottom of the truth. Maybe even a judge, and all around, although usually the judge is either the Hierophant, or if the justice card itself were to come out, that's definitely an indication. But it could be someone, given this coupled with the Judgment card, and I'm feeling compelled to go into all of this legal jargon, that is in an unassuming position to make a final judgment. Maybe perhaps she is the one to bang the gavel, but is just like perhaps maybe the last one you would have thought, like you thought she played a particular role as the Queen of Swords. Maybe, you didn't know that she had the power to say yay or nay to one thing or another, but lo and behold, with this Judgment card, maybe she does, so there's that. Let's see what else we got. I liked where I was going with that, though. I do like analogies and stuff. They're like puzzles to me in my head, even though sometimes it's hard for me to get it out, in real time when the clock is ticking. But later on, I'll be like, yeah, now that's that, and it's like a whole thing. But she could either be the prosecutor or the defense attorney, but I feel like with that sword in your hand, that's usually you. That feels like prosecutor vibes to me. Like she's the one that that initiated the what do you call it? The like she's the one that initiated the indictment, and now she's the one she has the burden of proof, so therefore she's coming with all of the evidence, the receipts, with the sword of truth to ultimately, prove the case against whomever or whatever. And then she's open, perhaps even in cross-examination or just open to testimony, or however the proceedings or the legal process goes. She's open, she's in deferment. Okay, I get it, to the ultimate judge, which would be in a practical sense, the one on the bench, or the divine. Okay, thank you, Spirit. I'm hearing it now. On the or the divine, the universal order to ultimately bring justice into alignment by way of the Judgment card, because the judgment is what the determination of the verdict is. The justice is like the sentencing, so first it has to be determined based on the preponderance of evidence, perhaps based on the case that was presented, and particularly with the integrity and in the oath of truth, which is what the Queen of Swords would be bound to. It's quite different. I mean, all lawyers have an oath that they're committed to or bound by, but particularly the prosecutor, is supposed to be working in a different vibration of honor or integrity of honor. The defense attorney has, they got a defendant to protect, and I wouldn't envy that job for nothing in the world, because I still don't understand how it is that you could know that your client is guilty, but you still got to do everything within your power to make sure that they get off, pretty much, like that's interesting. I don't think that would ever be for that that field would ever be for me on either side, honestly. But, well, in some ways, but that's another story for another day. But yes, so that's where I was going with that. So this is somebody that is in a high position of power and authority to make decisions that, she has the influence, I'll say, to make on high-powered judgments that will ultimately be passed down in some impending justice. And here's the World card, which is even adding another layer of power to this, because whatever that judgment may be is going to be, or is, the closing of a cycle and the beginning of a new one, like in a major way, though, like not just some little case closed type of thing, but it's like groundbreaking cases, like maybe even Supreme Court type of vibes, things that change history, like history making decisions are proceeding at this time, or with the Judgment card already being out here in the world, have already been decided, actually, as a matter of fact. And the influence is from the evidence that was presented at this point, from this point of view, but Spirit has already decided what the verdict is for all parties involved, or at least for the party involved in this case. And it's going to be something that it's like law changing or life changing with the World card here. it's like a case such as, like, I don't know, I'm just hearing Brown versus Board of Education off the top of my head, because I know that's a really popular thing. You know, something that completely shifts how life is up until that moment, and then does so almost, well, at least nationally, but perhaps even globally. I don't know, because when we're talking about a judgment from the celestial, from, you know, from this point of view, a cosmic point of view, it could quite possibly completely change the world, having that impact of power. But consider, you know, more practically, something that just changes laws throughout the nation, you know, whereas once upon a time, blacks and whites couldn't go to school together, and now it's almost, you know, it's more or less against the law to segregate, and unless, you know, people have their ways around creating barriers and blockages to, you know, maintain exclusivity. But for the most part, it's more or less national law, you know. So maybe we're going to see some big law go into effect on a smaller scale. Oh, snap. Oh, we got the devil card here. Should I put his ass up there? Or should he be down here? I'm going to keep him down here. Because we're talking about New World Order right here. Something that is going to impact life as we know it. So what is the devil doing here? Under the Queen of Swords. Just doing what he do, as always. Trying to overturn, what? Trying to overturn the judgment? Maybe this, oh snap, hold up. Was this the defendant? I just heard that, hold up, let me see. That would be a yes for me, honestly. But why the Queen of Cups on that? Let me see. Ooh, wow. Oh yeah, this is the defendant. And for crimes against humanity, particularly crimes against the feminine energy. I'm hearing Mother Gaia. That's what I'm hearing, especially with the World card here. Yeah. It's about, it's dark forces finally being called into judgment. I'm hearing over the ways they overstepped their power. Because, you know, more or less, we have the idea that the devil, so-called, Satan, is the prince of the air, right? And that almost has reign within the 3D realm. Perhaps that's what's being overturned, to restore sovereignty back to the individual. And the reason it's coming up so heavily feminine with the Nine of Pentacles and the Queen of Cups is, and I'm also getting justice vibes, is because of the grave imbalance that there was between the feminine and the masculine by way of this energetic interference here that kept it in balance, that kept the patriarchy in power in a very obsessive and possessive way that was not ultimately ordained. Like this is a ruling. This is like something being called into question as to whether or not this was admissible by celestial or supreme standards. It was not. There was a certain authority or precedence that this energy was, I'll say, granted, I guess, to have. Like similar to the emperor, where it's like he's not in charge of all the empires in the world any more than our president is in charge of China or in charge of the United Kingdom or Africa. Although we like to believe as the United States that we are, for the most part, it's like there's a restoration of power that's happening, and that's the judgment's been called on it, and now it's like almost being reset and redistributed is what I hear. And some people are being stripped altogether. So those energies that didn't stay within the jurisdiction of what was granted to them, and this can be on many different scales. Like I can see this universally, like globally, like I said, nationally, could be intimately, as this could be a father figure in your very own life. So down to that close and up close and personal, and as grand as the powers of the world, so to speak. The judgments have been, it's like some final decisions have been made, and some people don't, I don't even think some people know that they've been judged or that they've been in spiritual court, for that matter. This is a very practical expression of authority and power by way of the emperor. But like I said, the emperor has jurisdiction over his territory. And so he is more or less judged according to how he, how he ruled that space, but also on account of not only how well or otherwise he did that, but also in the interference or lack thereof with other territories that he may not have been given permission or jurisdiction to engage, let alone to actually impact, especially in any detrimental way. So I'm getting a sense that like the powers that be are really and it's like people playing around in the field, literally just, playing toy soldiers right now as is happening across the world, hiding behind orders and desks and, high offices, probably feel very distant, more or less, except for, of course, by ego, but physically feel very distant from the things that they are putting into play, the actions that are being called, but not realizing that they are about to be very much so held accountable and responsible for actions in a very direct expression of universal order that's going to manifest in a physical way. Wow. Yeah, Chariot card. And it's for the advancement of all, the good of all, honestly and ultimately, to, like I said, almost reset the power forces and redistribute that power appropriately from first an independent level, where perhaps the liberation of, I feel like it's like people are being liberated from the captivity of said powers, like because they're going to have so much to kind of answer for, like consider even now, like with Trump wanting to, he's wanting to get geared up to run for president, but now he's contending with things that he did, what now, years ago at this point, or at least a year ago, if not, years. It's been years now that he's done. And it's like people didn't think that, and he's just an example, and this is not me being for or against him, but that's just what's being put on display really for the purposes of distraction and also some other diabolical, I think, intentions from the powers that be actually contending and fighting with their own egos. Not, they'd be damned to have him, take winner take all again, you know what I mean? Because they know that before they scoffed at that idea, but now he's proven that it is very well possible. And right now he's probably still looking like the best of all the other guys, not saying I'm on either team or any team. I'm just saying like those that have more or less like a hat in the ring, or that have a dog in the fight, I should say, have an invested interest in crushing him before he can even get to the possibility, right? So that's just one example that I'm saying for the intents and purposes of this message right now, that he's having to literally defend himself for things that happened a long time ago, some of which he probably forgot about or thought would never resurface. And now here we are, or that it's taken a long time to finally get to, a court space or some type of so-called justice or question about it. And that is just like, I feel, it's kind of just like the omen for many of the world powers. I say world for a reason, because I don't think it's isolated to the United States. I think sometimes because we prop ourselves up to be kind of like the exemplary nation, good, bad, or indifferent, that sometimes we are the example or set the tone for what is possible around the world. But I think that there are going to be leaders that have felt they've had this is raw for me to say this, but I feel like there are leaders that may be sitting back kind of looking at America right now like, aha, look at it crumbling. But I feel like they're missing the warning that's going out to all nations, that the universe is calling judgment. This is not a matter of like, America's is going through what is Pluto return or something like that. So there's a lot of energy that we're contending with because of that that transit, as a nation. But still, the fact remains that it's like a beacon of warning to others that to like get your house in order type of thing, or you will be in the same boat as well. Even those countries that feel like their structure is kind of fortified in a way that they couldn't possibly have the issues that we as a nation have. Certain dictatorships and I'm using that term loosely, but what should I really say? Like, I don't know, like certain hierarchies of power, establishments of power that are more foolproof and a bit more stringent than the liberty and justice for all that America is supposed to be built upon, where there's more freedom of speech and people can march in the street or, act the fool, i.e. the, January 6th or whatever that issue was in the first place, stuff like that is just like unheard of in other countries. But it's like the warning, this horn that's blowing is that Lady Liberty is not prejudice. It's like, is no respecter of persons, nations, cultures, none of that. It's all about balance, equality, and everybody getting in alignment with the shift that Mother Gaia herself is calling into order, if that makes sense. It's like the planet is calling for an ascension of all living things in order to continue to stay, to have a life sentence at all in this realm, is what I'm picking up, in order to be welcome in this space, and or to have a certain level of a life experience. There's a calling for the liberation of all people, and for the oppressors of those individuals, especially intentionally so, to release their grip, or else, is simply what it comes down to. Because the judgment has been called, which means it's done. It's been ruled that this energetic force is no longer sustainable on this planet. And that, is coming down to like just the unfairness and the oppression of innocent people, more or less. And by innocent, I don't mean necessarily blameless of any wrongdoing, but that everybody gets to ultimately be responsible for their own vitality without the interference of oppression otherwise, externally especially. Like, we all got enough to deal with releasing ourselves from the internal impacts. Again, that was that Nine of Wands, that PTSD that we're all having to, or have had to, face on account of the injustices we've incurred just living in this realm, just being born here, period. No matter what your circumstances, no matter where you came up, that just being a product of this reality comes with a certain, I don't even know what you call it, like, so like certain impressions that ultimately leave a mark. I don't even know how else to say it. It's like, as soon as you get here, bam, you're punched in the face in some way, shape, or form. At least energetically and spiritually, right? But even perhaps maybe, intellectually, as what we believe to be the reality of this existence on this planet has been tampered with as well. Even by way, in the practical sense, as I've said, the dynamic of power as it exists all by itself, and what we have been conditioned to align with, contribute to, and even create to some degree. So it's like, this is like the ultimate judgment that's being called. Is bigger than it just being like, that's why I was about to go deep into the legalities and stuff, because it's bigger than just one simple case. This is like Gaia prosecuting the evils of the world. Or no, this is like, well, it could be that, but I feel like she's like it could be that. And the defendants are the energies that have fallen in alignment with and pledged allegiance, dare I say, not just alignment, because we've all been susceptible to alignment with the adverse energy, but there were opportunities to make it's like to proclaim your innocence to some degree, and it was by way of the choices that you made, the energies you choose to align with, how you invest your time, your resources, what you allow to be invested in you, or how you, all that, you know what I'm saying. And those that have, in light of all the time that's been given, still chosen to pledge their, and all the signs and synchronicities that have been encountered, like the warning signs, more or less, to say like, it's time to shift. If you haven't already, it's time for you to do something, live in truth, ultimately, just simple and plain, live and the integrity of your own truth that still resisted that call and decided to pledge allegiance to the adverse energy, and that's masculine or feminine at this point in time, are now having to answer for their crimes. And ultimately he's feeling like almost like an executioner to me, or definitely at least like some guard in law enforcement, like like the police officer or the and remember I said that the nine of wands is almost like jail. It could be incarceration of the mind and the energy, like you no longer have liberty of your energetic force to just creatively do whatever the hell you want to do in the emperor vibration as you were before. You were given certain liberties. We all were. Well, some of us that were, unfortunately, that had more higher vibrational intentions with our energy were confined quite a bit, even without our own consciousness of that confinement and that resistance. And it seemed very imbalanced, right, to some degree, that people that were doing the worst were actually getting ahead the farthest. Well, that's exactly the imbalance that the earth can no longer stand for, because those energies that have acquired such great power and prestige and even measurement of material and so forth and so on haven't done well to disseminate it fairly and equally or justifiably. They've just ultimately become more and more possessed by their own greed, and have hoarded more energy and more stuff and more, and to the detriment of even more innocent people, or by the casualty of those that didn't deserve it, by even greater masses of injustice. And it's like the more that they gave, the more that they took. Even with the world powers, it's like the more responsibility, the higher vibration of power on the food chain seems to ultimately do the worst stuff in any country. You could call it whatever you wanted: a president, a dictator, a sheik, a freaking king, a queen, whatever you want to call it. The powers that be it's like Judgment Day is finally here. Like they have been able to kind of shield themselves. Like, yeah, this is like them protecting themselves from judgment for so long, layered under all types of shit. Even watching the kind of middlemen like the senators and, other leaders of lower tiers of operation kind of have their day in court, spiritually or truthfully. It's almost like still the energies at these higher levels of power haven't quite gotten the message that's been sent from that perspective, that it's time to tighten up, it's time to shift, do something different. It's like they've almost doubled down. Consider even, the conflict now that's very active, where the whole world's screaming out, stop, please, cease, don't, and it's like it seems like that force is just doubling down on their agenda, their aggression even more, like as if the call for cease actually means the opposite. Is almost like inciting them to go even harder, it seems, at least from media projection, which mine is very limited because I don't tap into much of it, but just from what I see, which I of course take with a grain of salt, and I suggest you do too, because I've already said that that's not going to end the way that is projected. Even with them having obliterated the land and literally almost wiped out the people, it's still not going to be the win that they were counting on, because at this point now, even the world is looking like, what matter of monster are you? So it's like, where they don't lose physically, they may even lose out energetically and socially to maintain that level of support and allegiance that they had, not only from nation to nation, but just, everyday people, as I said, literally liberating the individual to see the reality of life for themselves and not to be jilted by the propaganda. You know, like, I don't feel like people are buying it. Yeah, of course, there's still this side and that, and then people that are indifferent somewhere in the middle for sure. But generally, as a human, to look upon this situation, it invokes a certain decision within you, you know, a certain determination one way or the other, like to literally feel for or against just the infraction on humanity alone, especially of those that don't have anything to do with either side, really, you know? So it's like just that example alone, whereas like the projection is to overtake and overrun and dominate this space and these people. It may not, even if the territory itself is is captured and consumed, it's at a great detriment to their, you know, to their public appearance. I'm saying appearance, but it's even deeper than that. I'd say like their public what's the right word? Like when you take polls for the president, approval. There it is, approval, which I feel can be, in the climate that we're in, especially from let's say a dictator's perspective, not to call anybody that, but from this energy where we got egos at play that have been protected for a long time, that the vitality of even that alone, public approval, can be discounted by someone that feels like that does, you know, it's like you could almost underestimate how vital that energy actually is to your daily operation, let alone the overall vitality of your nation. You know, to lose public approval and a general sentiment of agreement just on account of decisions made in this particular instance. It's like where one might feel like, oh, the hell with it, we're the freaking nation type of thing. It's like, oh, okay, all right. But it'll impact the prominence of the nation in ways that were unforeseen. And that's what I mean by the judgment and the justice being carried out, and these individuals that are under, you know, spiritual, you know, more or less spiritual and probably even actually practical scrutiny at this time, litigation or whatever you want to call it, aren't really privy to the perspective of just how great of a sentencing they may be bringing upon themselves by the works of their own hands, you know, ultimately. Just because it's just time that whatever energy that is in allegiance with this order of possession, limitation, obsession, all of those lower vibe, fear, guilt, shame, all those unjustifiable low vibrational energies that don't produce any good, don't contribute to the production of independence in any great or small way, don't contribute to productivity or prosperity. It's like it must be rectified now. It's their judgment can no longer be avoided at this point. It's like the proceedings have been delayed over and over again for lifetimes for there to be a call to, you know, for there to be, what do you call it, a ruling on this energy and what it's actually been doing to the overall health of the planet and the inhabitants thereof. And now it's like RICO charges. That's what it is. And it's so major. You know, when you consider like RICO charges, it's like, it's like usually it might be massive in the sense of how many individuals are involved, but it's going to be massive in the sense of how much territory it covers, is what I'm seeing. So not just the beings, but the places. Like, I don't know. Yeah, with the Seven of Pentacles, it's like, oh, I'm getting Revelation vibes. Like, now those that are, this is also the spirit of regeneration, right? And I was about to say, like, don't get scared. Don't get scared now, like Macaulay Culkin. Like, this is not to impose any fear or anything like that, because this is the people of the divine that have the opposite, the ones that have aligned themselves with the prosecution for the most part, are not in alignment for the same judgment and justice as the defendant, i.e. the devil and his associates. It's like everybody's getting rounded up, that was in this association and this allegiance of sorts, that had opportunities to transcend this, this cycle, from lifetimes ago with the Six of Cups. Like, this was the moment to balance all things out, because it could have been very well generational cycles that people were caught up in, that you just were born into. You didn't even necessarily sign up for this thing. Like, consider on a very practical level, just born into a family, a political family, and that's just what y'all do. Well, after a while, unless there's the one that is so-called chosen to do something different, even within that same arena, answers the call, the same politics as usual. Well, that same idea, mindset, way of living, way of being will just continue to pass down over and over again. There will be no change unless there's one at least that's willing to implement it by way of the calling judgment card to do so, right? So it's like individuals had the opportunity to free their bloodline, their family line, from years, perhaps lifetimes, definitely cycles of disturbance. Let's just call it that. And what you did with that, how you answered that call, is what determines your fate, i.e. the what do we call it? Not your sentencing, one way or another. Like, you live out in this sentence of, as the sentences are being carried out. This is like the henchman right here, with the Knight of Swords. Like, the enforcer is what I hear, that's ultimately either going to be the one to protect it's like Archangel Michael I'm feeling right here in this energy, to either protect the innocent, or, the ones that ultimately are covered, or that really have just aligned with their higher calling and that vibration. Even it's like it's all happening in one world on one timeline, for the most part. But it's like people are going to be almost living a duality of reality, is what I'm feeling, where judgments are being passed down and sentences are being carried out day to day. Some people are going to completely evade that and almost be living in this reality as if it's not even happening. Meanwhile, the henchman is on, is on strict orders, and his list is very specific, and the judgment's already been called and time is up, those that are on that list, one way or the other, are going to meet their fate one way or the other, either to, in a way of some type of detrimental or diabolical sense, unfortunately, or to be privy to this protection of peace and prosperity that almost doesn't even seem plausible in the reality that I'm speaking of in the adverse way, and how I'm talking about it. Even to me, as I'm talking about it, like, how is that going to get to be even now as, the Hierophant, that's the judge right there, and the Tower, it's like, some people are going to be living the best of times, and some people are going to be living the worst of times. Oh, shoot, and it came back out. So that's that on that. Yeah, and then here's the Sun. Some people feeling like they, this energy is like feeling like you have to literally protect your neck, and those that are just standing their ground on what, protecting their own energy and on what they believe in. But in the light of the Sun, it's like it could feel like exposure, or it could feel like vitality. It's literally a duality right now. The Queen of Wands, who's extremely proactive and hyperactive in creativity, and the Four of Cups, which is feeling rejected from the spirit and in the spirit, from happiness, from vitality, from like literally feeling like God forgot about you. I hate to say it like this, but that's the energy that I'm feeling. But it's more so because with that Four of Cups, this was the moment when remember I said those signs and signals and synchronicities where it was like, okay, take this cup. It's time to get away from that Three of Cups. Time to do something different. And it was like, no, I don't want to do it. Get somebody else to do it. And now it's like, okay, this is the memory that plays back in that moment now when your life flashes before your eyes, to remember that time when the spirit offered you unconditional love, just to be yourself, just change your perspective of yourself first and foremost, and also in your perception of others. It was rejected. People were stubborn and wanting to continue to do things that they had been accustomed to doing, to attain in the lower vibration, to maintain some strength and power over others, instead of just standing their ground on what they knew was right in the light of the status quo, or what everyone else was doing. That was a harder task to really do, and everybody wasn't up for the challenge. And it's like, it seemed like a hard job. Yeah, look at this, the Temperance card. It seemed like a tall order to fill back then, and the influences of the world. But now it's like having to start all over again from square one, perhaps for many, is far more daunting of a task than what was originally offered or extended to embark upon, or accept, I should say. Wow. I really didn't expect this. I'm just getting one more and I'm out of here. Because I don't even know. Like, I know what I'm saying, but it just seems... And the goddamn Emperor again. That's what it is. Like, it's a I was gonna say a day of reckoning, but it's clearly not a day type of situation, unless, my God, talk about doomsday for you if all this is supposed to happen in one day. But it's like maybe everybody's getting their day of reckoning for the injustices that have occurred. Exposure here. Yeah, and again, I'm feeling like people don't even see it coming with the Three of Wands. They waiting on a completely different fate with the Three of Wands. And this is the imbalance or instability that, oh, and look at that. Yeah. This ain't good. And there's the Fool card again. Yeah, people waiting on ships to come in from energy that they've been sending out for years, for lifetimes, for decades, for centuries. Like, it's the family legacy, it's the dynasty, it's the family business. This is what we do. Like, this is what we've always done, and it's always worked. And it's like, no, time's up for that. You're going to have to find a new way, start over fresh. Yeah, this is the work. And there's the Justice card. Oh my goodness. It's always worked with this Two of Wands. It's always yielded the desirable results is what it is. But it's like justice is here to intervene, because it's just, it's a new world. It's a new world, regardless of, it's time's up for this. And everything that's been in this energy is being exposed for exactly what it is and being brought in for prosecution. Nobody will, and even if it's not physical, actual, like legal in the court of the land, is spiritual court, which is just as terrifying. And like I always say, in spiritual court, nothing is missed. When judgment is called in spiritual court, it's not on account of any mistrial or mismanagement of evidence or none of that. It's all fair game, because spirit sees all and knows all, and everything's been documented. Everything's been taken into account up until now, since the beginning of time, as a matter of fact. But certainly within this lifetime, it's all been well documented. So when the spirit puts you on trial, you might as well take the deal. Like, plead your way out as much as you possibly can, and then you still probably won't find much lenience, because spirit is just fair that way. And it's like everyone is having to atone for energies that they had fair warning to redirect long time ago now. There's nothing been, there will be no unfair, unjust judgments in the land as far as spirit is concerned. Now, man's court, that's a whole nother thing. But even with that, I feel like those scales are balancing tremendously, because as above, so below, as within, so without, So that's why we're seeing a hell of people being eradicated of false judgments, or, released from unlawful imprisonment, and cases being solved that have been cold for years, literally decades. It's astonishing to me. Like, how the hell do you find the evidence for a 30-year-old case that this is the person that did? And it's like, that's happening. I've seen that with my own eyes in passing on YouTube and things like that. So it's happening in the natural form, but in the spirit, it's like nobody's going to get missed. But in the higher vibration with the Sun card here, it's like justice is served for all, actually, really and truly. So there are those that have been on the right hand of justice, but have been getting the raw end of the stick under this guy and his influence in the land. And now that's being eradicated in some great way, and maybe perhaps just because hands are full at this time, having to deal with their own judgments, that they just don't have the time and energy to impose anything unjustified otherwise, which is, again, it's all fair to me, however it gets to be. But the higher vibration of it all, of course, is that people are being liberated to just live the life that that they were destined to live at this point. And that's and those that are in the upright and have proven themselves to be in the upright to do that have only wanted to do that, not wanting to impede on anyone else's journey or prosperity or productivity, but just simply wanting to be free, period. Nothing more, nothing less, and not wanting to take or have anything more than what's due to them. And now the balance and the liberty to do so is being solidified in the realm, in spirit and in truth. Because I'm telling you, I'm seeing it. I don't think I've really expressed it the way that I'm seeing it, but as it reveals itself, I'll speak on it here and there. I will. That from the top down, all across the land, the day of reckoning has come. Let's say it like that. And these tower moments are going to be quite common, but in unsuspecting places and in surprising ways will they reveal themselves. Perhaps in sudden revelations, I should really say, which is the energy of the Tower card itself. Like unsuspecting because you never thought the day would come, and surprising and astonishing because of the visibility of the exposure and the general knowledge and revelation of it all to the masses. Because a lot of times certain things go under the radar, especially with high powered energies. You'll never see what happens. They'll just step down or get sniped out or something like that, and you won't even know why. But it's like universal revelation happening right now, and no one is going to fly under the radar that is supposed to be revealed, or dare I say exposed, from an ethereal force. That in itself is the justice as well. That everything that was done in the dark is now coming out into the light. And those that have been tormented in the dark are being freed to live their life in the light all the same, as was always intended for them to do so, without interference and no more without delay. Sudden changes on either ends of the spectrum and everything in between, as a matter of fact. So that's the energy of this world-changing case here, is because this energy is finally being prosecuted in a way that has been evading to be so since the beginning of time. So, with liberty and justice for all, it is so, and so it is. I'm done with this. Until next time, peace.